Welcome to another edition of Talkable San Leandro, a series of community conversations with people who are making a difference. I'm your host, Wayne Gregori, and today I have Debbie Pollart with us. She's the Director of Public Works in San Leandro. Debbie, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
It's so nice for you to come in. We have so much to talk about. There's pavement, there's sewers, there's toilets. Yes. How much time do you have?
As much time as you need.
There you go. Okay. Well, you know, I put a message out on Nextdoor, and of course, had a lot of people commenting. And personally, I'll just put my personal opinion in.
Right.
I think, despite the problems with litter that every city has, I think the city's doing really well with regard to maintenance. So for me, we're doing good. But everyone's got their opinion, right? So let's start out with pavement. Because there, some streets are being repaved.
Yes.
Or resurfaced, let's call it that. And now, first of all, that process, because they're not digging up the streets, they're essentially kind of resurfacing and then putting a slurry coat on there.
Yes.
Now, is that the process they'll do for all streets, or are there streets that are in bad enough condition that they'll need to be dug up?
Sure. I'll preface this by saying that pavement work is actually done or shared between Engineering and Transportation Department and Public Works. So the larger slurry and reconstruction projects are done through the Engineering and Transportation Department. It's part of the Capital Improvement Project or CIP process. Engineering every year goes out and assesses all the streets and assigns them a pavement condition index, the PCI.
Right.
So a newly paved street is 100 and Eden Road is a 0.
Okay, all right. So just for example, so Oaks is right behind us here, and it's in really bad shape. I've seen the roads that have been paved up in my neighborhood, and they simply weren't that bad, and they've come out very nicely.
Yes.
And so I'm wondering, so a street like Oaks, is that going to be dug up and repaved, or will they do the same type of? Is it? That
would be determined by engineering, but it's a question we get a lot from residents. They'll say, 2 streets over just got done, whatever, if it was a slurry or reconstructed, but my street's a lot worse. What gives? We have, prior to SB1 being enacted in November of 2017, we had over $100 million of deferred roadway maintenance.
No, I've heard that number before. It's a big number.
So even with the additional gas tax monies that the city is receiving, and we're very thankful for those of you that drive, for that, it's going to take a long time for all of the streets to be addressed. Yeah. And the school of thought with the engineering department is that it's cheaper to keep a road that has a higher PCI. It's cheaper to keep that.
The higher the PCI, the worse?
No, the higher the better.
Okay,
so a newly paved road is 100, and Eden, which is unpaved, is 0.
Okay.
So if it's actually costs the city less if you have a road that maybe, let's say it's a 70 or 75, it's cheaper to keep doing the sealants on that every, the surfacing. What's happened in the past when we only had like $3.5 million total for road construction, that was prior to the gas tax. If you can imagine, you can reconstruct one road, or you could seal, 10 or 15. Yeah. And so it's always been a combination of the two. We try and reach those that do need reconstructing, but that's the most expensive. Yeah. And when the gas tax monies came on board, in addition to the Measure BB funds that the city received a couple years ago, council gave us direction that the worst streets, they wanted those to be addressed. Where previously we had told people that had single digit or in the low, below 20 for PCI, we previously told them it'll probably never happen or it could be decades. Well, now council direction has been, for those that need reconstruction, they said, to Engineering and Transportation, we want you to tackle the worst first for the reconstruction. Right.
And so, and then there are a number of people that asked, they repaved part of our road, but at this street, they stopped. And so for my neighbors, it was Benedict, right? They said, they repaved it from Estudillo to the overpass there, and then from the overpass down to the hospital, they didn't do that. And so how do those decisions made? That's kind of interesting. I know it's a particular case, but is there...
Right. Again, that's a function of engineering and transportation. Right. They're looking at different factors. Part of it has to do also when you work on a road doing maintenance and upgrade it, and you're working on more than 25% of the area of the road. Right. You also have to bring everything up to current ADA standards, meaning if there's, we don't have too many intersections anymore that don't have any ramps, right. But it's not only putting in ramps where there aren't any, but it's also getting them current. So, a ramp that was put in 20 years ago does not meet current ADA requirements. Right. So that is required of the cities, that if you're working on more than 25% of the road, you must bring that up to the ADA, up to code. Okay. And that just adds on to the expense. Right. So sometimes that's, they'll do a section of road that maybe the ramps are okay, and do that, but then not do the next leg because maybe that requires, the ramps, and there's not funding to do that.
Okay, and speaking of expense, so I've noticed, and this is something maybe I just noticed now, and it was like that before, but the machinery that's out there doing it has a San Leandro seal on the side of it, and I don't know that I ever saw that years past.
You didn't. Why? We were very lucky with the Measure BB funds that came in a couple years ago, and then with the SB1 funding, the gas tax. Okay. We upgraded our paver. And
we had a paver prior?
We did, but it was probably 25 years old. Okay. It was a static 8-foot width. Okay.
Very small.
And the one that we have now will do as small as 4 feet, so you can do your park pathways, and as wide as 16 feet.
Yeah, right. It's a big
so it gives us much more flexibility. Got it. It's self-propelling, whereas our old one had to be towed behind a vehicle. So it was just bringing the technology up to current standards, and it allows us to do more work in-house.
Good. Yeah, I kind of figured that. Yeah. Okay, so another issue are San Leandro trees. Love the trees, but the trees are, many of them, very mature now, and they cause problems. They're lifting up sidewalks, and they are infiltrating sewers. The sewer lines in the city are very old. Yes. Whether they're going to be infiltrated by trees or the bushes next door, it's really six of one, half a dozen of the other. Right. But in any case, it is I have kind of a proposal from one of the neighbors, and I'm sure it's floating around City Hall, and I'll give it to you before we go through here. But is there some way to kind of help neighbors with regard to the cost? Because here the problem is the city owns the trees, but any damage they do to the sidewalk or to the sewer system is the homeowner's responsibility.
Yes and no.
Okay.
So the way it is currently established, the city, the trees are the city's. If the sidewalk is damaged due to the city tree, it's a 50-50 split. Oh, okay. So what happens is, again, this is something that the sidewalk program is run through the Engineering and Transportation Department. Okay. They get a call saying there's a tripping hazard. They'll go out and assess it. They'll let Public Works know if there's a temporary fix that we can do, meaning like a grind or the little asphalt patches that you see. And then they estimate how much concrete needs to be replaced. Right. They give the homeowner a written estimate showing them what their 50% is. Right. Then it's put on a project list that engineering bids out once a year. A list of properties that are getting the work done. So that's how the sidewalks work. Okay. And what happens is when the contractor comes out to pour the new cement, when they lift the old slab up, then Public Works comes out and we either prune the roots back, or if it's very problematic or if the tree is near the end of its life, we will recommend and we will remove it. I see. Okay. But that's done on a case-by-case basis.
Do you know how our policies compare to like Oakland's policies? I mean, are they more more or less generous to the homeowner?
It's all over the board in the Bay Area.
Okay.
Some cities will actually put the cost 100% on the property owner,
Right.
and that's very common. And some cities have a split. I heard historically, this is, I've been with the city for 18 years, and this was way before that. Historically, we had a 75-25 split where it was 75 city.
Right.
I don't know why or when it was changed to the 50-50. And then there are some cities that foot the bill entirely.
Right.
So we're sort of in the middle.
Right.
For the private lateral that goes from the main to the house, that is 100% the property owner's responsibility.
Right.
What they can do, and we encourage people to do this, is if you are having the lateral replaced or sleeved,
right.
That you take pictures and document that if there are tree roots in there that have caused the damage, then you can submit a claim to the city.
Well, that seems fair. I mean, it seems like it's certainly. I mean, we work in Oakland as realtors, and there's no situation like that. I mean, people just have to replace them.
Right.
Yeah. So, okay. So, let's talk about sewers.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, what do you mean problems? How is the sewer system?
We actually, San Leandro is in a good position. Unlike EB Mud and other cities that are under an injunction. They have the private sewer ordinance, where you have to have your lateral replaced prior to selling of the home.
Right.
The reason that EB Mud, the providers that EB Mud, or the cities that EB Mud services, and like Oakland and Alameda, the reason they were part of that injunction is because their system was not good. There was leaking occurring in the system. And so that was the way to try to make improvements, was to require
leaking from those private laterals into essentially groundwater.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. So we're in good shape. I think partly because we've been a built-out city for so long. We haven't had a lot of growth like other cities like Fremont. That had lots of land to develop on. Right. But our sewers are in good shape. Yeah.
I was reading. Not that I read a lot of sewer stories. They come across the news every once in a while, and they have systems where there's so much animal fat going in through that they have these huge globs of animal fat as big as a small compact car in some cities. And do we have any of those kinds of problems here?
We don't, and that's partly due to our environmental services section that is part of Public Works. When a restaurant opens up in town, they are required. Our staff go in and ensure that the grease traps are in place and that they're being serviced. That's not to say that some people maybe don't service them the way they should. But there are measures in place that help prevent the fats and the greases from entering the system.
And how do we inspect our sewer system, like the main lines?
We have a robot.
Oh, that's nice. Very nice.
That's tethered. We have a camera truck.
Does the robot have a name?
I'll have to ask the guys. I don't know. I'm sure it does have a name.
Right.
But the sewer truck, one of the trucks has a camera on it, and it's tethered.
Okay.
And it's remote control, and they send it down. So we try and assess. We have maintenance areas, and so we hit every section of our main line. We're not assessing private laterals.
Right, sure.
I mean, we can take a peek as we're going by.
Sure.
But so we do that as a way to, for preventive maintenance. It helps us. Each year we have projects that we do, maintenance projects where we have to replace sections of pipe. So having the camera footage helps us determine where those projects need to occur.
Good. And so there's the marina, right? And there was a lot of talk on next door about the marina, and we love our marina, and it's a place that gets a lot of use, and so some of the questions are about there's a lot of garbage there, and the bathrooms are not kept clean. So what is the maintenance schedule there? And is that what are the issues there? Is it a homeless issue with regard to some of these problems of cleanliness?
Several years ago, when the city entered into the negotiating agreement with Cal Coast to develop the shoreline, we at that point, had a discussion about possibly closing the marina at some point in the future, because previous councils we're not going to make that call, but that call was made that when the shoreline project goes in, that we would eventually close the marina down. So we really have been having bare bones on maintenance.
I see.
I mean, we're there every day. The restrooms are cleaned every day, but they haven't been replaced. It's old infrastructure. If
it's hard to keep it clean.
It is. It is, and we do have problems with vandalism down at the marina. And so when people misuse the facilities, they don't always get fixed back to the way that they were.
But we sure have some incredible barbecue machinery there, or mechanisms.
Those were built in-house by our park staff.
I know that, and I want to have that gentleman down here.
All right, that's Winston McKee. He's our park supervisor.
Oh my God, it's just a marvel of engineering. I love driving by and just looking at it.
We call it the train barbecue.
It looks like a train. I was going to say that. Anyway, it's brilliant. So the other problem that we hear about the marina is people are living down there in their motor homes. Homeless problems, and they're every city's got those. But anyway, can you tell me kind of, people are allowed to stay down there during the day because it's a parking lot.
Yes.
But at night, are they staying there, or what are we doing?
The current administrative code actually prohibits overnight RV parking. And it was silent. The code was silent on personal vehicles. And then we also recently went back and changed the hours of operation. They used to have funky hours. It was half hour before sunrise till 10 p.m. And that's a little hard for police to go out and...
Works well with daylight saving time, right? Because that's 8 hours change.
So we changed it now. It's just static. 5 a.m. You can park and be out at the marina, the shoreline area, from 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. And then after that, you'll be asked to leave.
I see.
The police, this is a concerted effort by the police department, Recreation and Human Services. They're involved in trying to find people, those that wish to have housing or some sort of support services. That's what they're there for. So they're doing the heavy lifting on that part, both PD and Recreation and Human Services, and we come back behind and kind of try and clean things up as best as we can. You do get a lot of garbage out there, mostly from the onshore winds. It's interesting, if you look at the garbage, a lot of it is coming from Redwood City.
It's imported.
Yes,
it's coming
it is. A lot comes from Redwood City. It's interesting.
That is interesting, because that was one of the comments, that there's a lot of garbage on the shore. But I absolutely kind of thought of that, where every day we've got that wind coming across. And, all those little pieces are like a sail, and they're finding their way over.
We have, it's a combination. We have part-time staff out there that do some of the pickup, and then we also engage the ARC of Alameda County. They have a crew that comes out. I think they're out 2 days a week.
And the ARC, what is that? I
don't know what the acronym stands for. It's similar to Stepping Stones.
Oh, I see. Good,
just another organization.
All right, so I've kind of talked about the things I was kind of interested in understanding. Is there anything that you would like that comes to mind under your preview that you would like people to kind of know a little bit about?
Sure. We have underway right now the water pollution control plant, or the sewer plant. We are constructing a 1 megawatt solar out there. So the city of San Leandro will have its first solar installation on a large scale.
Where is this? It's out.
So at the western end of Davis Street is the water pollution control plant. Where it's the plant, and then the gun range, and waste management. That's sort of the three people out there, and the entryway to East Bay Regional Parks. So we received a grant from the Energy Commission for $1.9 million. It was a 50-50 grant, so we put $1.9 million of the plant's money, and then we received a grant for $1.9 million. It's going to provide about 45% of the plant's energy, and the plant is the biggest.
The plant, what plant is it?
The water pollution control plant. Sorry,
okay,
it's a quicker way. So the plant is our biggest energy. You know, it's a 24/7 facility, and our utility bill is typically a little over $500,000 a year. I think last year was $565. So having anything offset is going to be great. So the solar project, once it's completed, it should provide about 45% of the energy. And we're also looking eventually. We would like that facility to be a net zero. So you're looking at battery storage, the fog and grease, you know, using that for energy. So there's all sorts of new technologies that are coming along in that field. So we're very excited.
And when is that going in? Has it started?
Construction has started. So probably in the next couple months we'll have information out.
If people drive down there, is there something to see?
There isn't anything. It's not anything that you can see from the road. Because they're in the drying beds, which are off to the side. So yeah, you can't see anything, but we'll be sure and let everybody else know.
But if you went to Google Maps and kind of looked in there, could you? I mean, not that Google Maps is you know, the satellite images, but you could probably see.
Once they take up new imagery, I'm sure they could.
Well, maybe I'll go and check that out.
And then hopefully we had a little hiccup this year. We were hoping to open it this year, but. I think we'll get everything in place for next summer to have the reclaimed water available free to residents. So anybody who's a resident in the city of San Leandro can come down to the plant and fill up and get free reclaimed water, which they can use in their gardens.
So essentially you get a big tank in the back of your car, your truck, and fill it up?
How people do it a bunch of different ways. You'll see the pickup trucks that have the tanks on them, or you can even bring your 5-gallon bucket.
And otherwise, where is the reclaimed water going to if people aren't taking it?
There's a small percentage that we send down to the Monarch Bay golf courses, which we own. 95% of that golf course is watered with reclaimed water, which is huge.
That is,
and then the rest of it goes to the bay. And we have a lot of untapped potential for the use. What we're really lacking is just infrastructure. Laying pipe is very expensive, but we hope in the future maybe a private business will come in that once has a high water use and we can partner with them to get some pipe in.
Maybe 21st Amendment, but that would be a bad marketing thing.
Yes.
Maybe not. Maybe not.
You currently are precluded by the State Water Board to use reclaimed water in food processing.
Oh, there you go. Well, that's a good law. Thank God. Anything else that you've got that's brewing up there in Public Works?
We have also related to the plant is we got a Measure AA grant. It was a little over $500,000 from the San Francisco Bay Authority, and that's to do a pilot project looking at the nutrient load. Again, these are environmental aspects that we're looking to be good stewards of the environment. So that's a pilot project that's just now kicking off, and if it proves to be something that it works, it's something that plants throughout the Bay Area could utilize. And what it does in essence is you're using the natural land around you to filter the water instead of using chlorine and other chemicals. So it's just a way, when we don't have to get rid of the chlorine anymore or even purchase it, it makes life better.
I read a huge article in the New York Times this weekend. It was called Bugageddon, or Armageddon for bugs. And it appears that we're losing a lot of the biomass that are bugs around the planet. It was a frightening article, and it's not something that I was unaware of. I've been reading about it for some years, but to get this kind of press, which is important. But having those kinds of systems that help the biosphere and to move on forward.
The only other thing I'll add is that with Proposition 6 not passing,
Right.
which would have taken away the gas tax money,
Right.
You will see a lot more paving occurring this coming year.
I'm thinking people will like that.
Yes, it'll be a combination of both work that we do in-house with I don't know if you saw when we the grinder that we rented. It was like the big, it was like the big piece of equipment that we had. So we're gonna look at renting that again, or possibly purchasing one. So that allows us to do
The whole thing.
That allows us to do everything. We can grind it,
Right.
and then we can go back and pave it. And what's great about that is that projects or streets that were further down on engineering's list.
Right.
Now we can start tackling those in-house.
I see. Right,
Instead of, they're still going to have their big projects that are done by the contractors.
Right.
But we have increased capacity and capabilities with
and the
this
breadth
new
of what you can deal
exactly.
with.
Right. We feel very fortunate that we'll have the opportunity to tackle more roads this coming year.
Well, that's cool. Well, listen, it's been a pleasure having you and talking about all these important things for San Leandro. I want to thank our viewing audience for stumbling into Talkable San Leandro again. If you've enjoyed this interview, please go to our Facebook page, give us a thumbs up, write a good review, share it with your friends. And until the next time, keep up the conversation. Thank you.
All right. You're welcome.
Good.